Namaste, Hari Om to everybody. Thank you very much for joining this evening in India, this morning in the United States, to our 1 month long festival celebrating the life of Sri Adi Shankara. Today, we have a special treat. The Deepa Bhaskaran, Salem. She's an Advaita Vedanta student. She will be talking about Vedanta Demystified for youth. She is an Advaita Vedanta student and a sadhaka. She speaks and writes on Hindu Dharma and parenting. And she also conducts Hindu workshops for parents and youth. Professionally, she's a technology marketing executive. And she learned about teaching Dharma and Vedanta to children by experimenting on her 3 children and on many youth whom she mentors as a life coach. And she does workshops, and her workshops can be found in livethehinduvay.wordpress.com. So welcome, Deepaji. We are looking forward to interacting with you. And by the way, this workshop and talk is going to be interactive. So be prepared to respond and interact with her when he asks questions. Thank you, Deepaji. Can you come on video and take over? Namaste.
Namaste. Let's start with a prayer. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Thank you again to Advaita Academy for an opportunity to talk about Vedanta. It's always something that all of us who study Vedanta are always happy to share and happy to talk about. After the workshop or after the lecture on teaching Vedanta to children that happened on May 8th, there have been many requests for more elaboration and more simplification to some extent, because I tried to pack a lot of the technical, the science of Vedanta in a short hour. So based on the request from that session, we have arranged this Vedanta Demystified for youth, which attempts to simplify, in fact, oversimplify Vedanta for not just youth, but also adult beginners. So I am giving it a shot. 2 hours, it will be spread over today and tomorrow at the same time. And in 2 hours covering such a vast topic that, consists of the knowledge of the Upanishads and the knowledge of the Gita and everything, is not at all easy. So by no means is this a way to teach Vedanta, but hopefully I'll give you enough so that you're inspired to go forward and learn more about it. And again, for those seekers of Vedanta, for senior students, I've taken a shot at simplification. So I apologize in advance for any liberties I'm taking with simplifying it. I just felt it's the best way to communicate this knowledge to beginners. So with that, as Prasadji said, I would like this to be interactive and not so much as a lecture. So I would really appreciate if you can all post some questions on chat, and then we can go through some of the questions as we go. I'll take a break in the middle of every section to address some of your questions. So just ask anything that you feel is not clear. Let's go into the content itself. It's pretty packed. And before we go in, obviously, anything that I say is only my understanding and my sharing from what I have learned from my gurus. My children have benefited, and I've benefited through the Chinmaya mission for several years, for 15 years. And I owe all my knowledge to the Chinmaya Guru-Parampara, Swami Sharanananda ji, the guru in Chicago, as well as Swami Paramarthananda ji, who has taken me far through my journey in Vedanta as well. So I bow down to all of them. So first, I want to intersperse this talk with some stories and with thought experiments, because it's a very intense subject. So I don't want to make it too intense and boring, especially on a Saturday morning and a Saturday evening. So I want to go through with some thought experiments, with some provocative thoughts that you can think through the rest of your day. Firstly, think about it. There are over 8 million species just on Earth. So that is what the latest science tells us, is there are 8 million species of creatures only on Earth. And we don't even know about the existence of life on other planets or other galaxies, right? Just on Earth, there are 8 million species. Now, all species can survive. All species can basically, mate, or I'm sorry, all species can, survive. They can hunt for food. They can be safe. They can, mate and breed. They can all do that. There is only one species that can ask the question, why? The why question, right? Why am I here? Why is this world here? And what is the purpose of life? There's only one species that can do that, and that is us, right? It's not like other species are not intelligent, but only the human species is capable of asking the question, why? So how are we? Why are we so special, right? And we have been born as this human. So it is incredibly rare. In fact, I want to tell you a little incident that, a little story that Buddha actually narrates. See this turtle? This turtle is a blind turtle, apparently. And this turtle is swimming in the oceans of the earth. So it's all over, swimming across the oceans of the earth. And apparently there is a golden ring, it's like a yoke, a long, big golden ring that is floating also on the ocean. This turtle comes up once every 1,000 years. It comes to the surface where this ring is floating. Now, what are the odds of this ring going on the neck of the turtle, right? Like you see in the picture. The Buddha says that is the odds of getting a human birth. So it is, just imagine, right? This turtle is swimming all over the Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and all the oceans. And somehow that is at some time, eons of time has passed, where somehow this turtle has this yoke that falls on its neck. That is the rarity of a human birth. Now, if that is the rarity of the human birth, shouldn't we be, giving it more importance? Shouldn't we be trying to understand the purpose of that birth? And shouldn't we be doing more to use that for the purpose that we have been given this particular birth? So Adi Shankaracharya also, whose birthday we are celebrating all through this month, starts out as Viveka Chudamani with couple of times, many times, he reiterating that this birth is so rare. Human birth is so rare. Jantunam narajanma durlabhamataha, he says. And that to be exposed, to be born in a Vaidika culture, that have this knowledge available for us, have gurus to explain this to us, that is the rarest of the rare. It's kind of like this turtle. So let's try to, the whole purpose of this talk, as well as all the stuff that Advaita Academy is organizing, all our gurus are saying, is let's start being more contemplative. Let's start trying to understand some abstract ideas of life and start to go beyond the physical. Let's start with understanding our purpose, of at least questioning what's the purpose of our lives, and at least remember it once in a while in the middle of our very hectic, life right now. So what are we here for? Okay, so let's say we are the turtle that found the golden ring. What is it that we are here for? Hindu Dharma says that we are here for achieving certain goals. They are called the Purusharthas. I'm sorry, I'm trying to move my screen here. So we are all, long before this Maslow, you've all heard about Maslow. He had this hierarchy of needs. Long before Maslow, our rishis had already constructed what they thought were the goals of life, that every human being naturally attempts to achieve. Firstly, we all aim for, security. So security is the prime need. In fact, we say we are aiming for money, we say we are aiming for possessions, but underlying all those desires is the need for security, right? That's why we want to have a bank balance. We want a safe house. We want to live in a safe neighborhood. We want to make sure even when we are old, we don't run out of money. So we keep, saving. So all of that is categorized as artha, in Sanskrit, but primarily it is security. Then once we are we have our basic needs met, we have, food on the table, we have a safe place to live. we aim for pleasure. We want to have entertainment, and that comes in many, many forms. We want to, have friends, we want to marry, have relationships, we want to watch movies or go out, travel, all of this thing. All that comes under this bucket called karma, which is truly pleasure. I apologize for my throat. I am recovering from some sickness. Then many of us, and thankfully a large number of us, do aim for something more than just basic artha and kama, right? Once we have our basic needs met, once we have some amount of entertainment, we feel good about it, then many of us aim for something more, which is dharma, which spans many things. It could be performing our religious duties, daily, developing devotion to God, doing puja and, all our sandhya vandana or all the karmas, but they are also doing your duties to the family, and sometimes more than that, by volunteering or doing some charity. Why are we doing that? Because there is something in us that makes us want to be noble, be more beyond that basic person. And then finally, there is something called moksha, which is really transcending all of these and understanding our true self and just liberating ourselves from all these bondage that ties us to the world, right? And we'll talk about, I know these are very abstract concepts. We will talk about it later, but really the moksha is the subject matter of what we're going to talk about mostly today. So when you think about it, so Swami Chinmayanandaji, he categorizes people as three. He says that there are many people who are just these, not little better than animals, the animal man, they're prakrita. All they are aiming for is, I want my needs met, my desires met. That's all. I don't care about anything else. Maximum, my family, that's all I care about. I want to accumulate money for it, for them, for me. I want to have my pleasure, whatever. I'll chase pleasure all day long. I will do whatever I want through my life. Complete licentiousness, as they call it, right? Complete decadent lifestyle, little better than animals, right? That is what Swami Chinmayanandaji calls the animal man, the prakrita purusha. Then, like we said, there are some who kind of, okay, I do have artha kama, I do want to enjoy, I do want to have security, big bank balance. At the same time, I also want to do some dharma. I want to follow some noble life. And those people, they start evolving. Many people very early on, age has nothing to do with it. Many people start evolving into the man much early, and they're called the Samskrita Purushas. But a very, very small minority transcend even that and say, hey, I have this rare human birth. I understand it's rare. What is its purpose? Why are we here? What do I need to achieve in this particular human birth? Is it just artha kama, and is it just dharma, or is there something more? And that is the content of Vedanta. So why Vedanta? I'm sorry, give me a second. So why Vedanta, right? So we are really, first, before we go into anything, we want to understand what is the purpose. Why are we even talking about all of this? So that is the purpose of this section. This is some of this content that I'm going to talk about is things that we also saw in the last episode. So if that is not, you have not listened to it, please go and listen to it. I'm going to quickly walk through this section of why Vedanta. Now, the first thing is to understand is, many Hindus, they think Vedanta is something mystic, something practiced by sadhus or, the Himalayas or something. But we know very clearly that Vedanta is a logical darshana. So if many of you, especially if you're youth, you may be familiar with Western philosophy, right? Aristotle and Plato and all of that. And of course, later, all the, European philosophers, Kant and Hegel and, Jung and all. But the point is, Vedanta's, our philosophy, Hindu philosophy, are called darshana, which means we don't separate philosophy from life or from religion or from social structures or so on. It's a very holistic approach to life. It's a holistic framework in which questions about philosophy are part of it. Questions about psychology, we deal with the mind, we deal with religion, because fundamentally the philosophy is not just some abstract text that somebody, some philosopher talks about, nobody else knows about it. Our rishis were visionaries, because they brought that philosophy, they brought high philosophy and they translated it into religion, and they somehow transmitted it into the culture. Even every tradition in Bharat, we will know, even the people who have no idea about Vedanta, who have no idea about all of that we are going to talk about, in a way, they practice it because our rishis have created a lifestyle that embodies this Vedanta. So from that standpoint, our philosophy, Vedanta, is a fundamental philosophy. And what does it talk about? It talks about Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. Here and there, I'm going to sprinkle some Sanskrit words. I will not do as much as I did last time. So just go with a few words so that you get familiar with these terminologies. But Vedanta fundamentally deals with me, who am I? And then it deals with the world. What is this world? And then it deals with who created it. Why did he create and he or she create it? What is the purpose, right? There are some fundamental questions that are getting addressed, and these are addressed through the Vedas. A part of the Vedas called the Upanishads. They are called Veda Anta, which is the end of the Vedas, which means it's not like it's a book and it's the end of the book. It's really the highest knowledge of the Vedas is called the Vedanta. And I don't want to go into dates, but extremely old kind of tradition of Vedic rishis who contemplated, who were able to fathom these questions that we are talking about. And they created these, they basically created this corpus of Upanishads. And thankfully, the Upanishads have, since then, it's been an unbroken line, continuous scholarship and a teaching tradition where many, many rishis, right, from the Vedic rishis in the Purana period, Bhagavan Vyasa, Adi Shankaracharya, of course, and so on and so on, until even in this century, we have great gurus in the Parampara who continue to teach us what the truths of the Upanishads. And the fact is they have withstood the time, right? All of the technology, all of the progress, they have withstood it. So we are very thankful to this because they have taken that ancient knowledge and they continue to write commentaries and teaching methodologies so that they actually, like peeling a banana and feeding us, they have actually found a very beautiful teaching method to communicate this very, very complex philosophy for us so that it bears fruit in our lives, so that it actually helps us. Now, like I said earlier, it's not something mystical or esoteric. It's very logically explained. So that is the study of several years that we all, Advaita Vedanta students embark on. There's a very structured teaching methodology. There are many texts, and it's very logically explained. It's analyzable to some extent. We can all sit and we can, contemplate on it and try to understand it. It's possible to do that. It's not something so cryptic. It takes time, no doubt. And then it is experienceable. That's the most important thing. Unlike other philosophies, other religions, where a certain special person achieved it, a certain prophet or a certain person only achieved whatever that's God, that divinity. Here we are told that each one of us can experience it. Each one of us can achieve whatever those Vedic rishis achieved, whatever even Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya achieved. We can achieve it because they have laid down the path, and if we walk that path, we can achieve it too. So this process is called Shruti Yukti Anubhava, which is the texts are telling you the truth, but you can understand it. You can logically, you can work through this and understand it. And finally, through some practices and purification of our mind, we can actually achieve it also. It is available for anybody. There is no such thing as only this person or that person. Every single person with an interest in it, with an aspiration for it, can achieve it. They do need to develop a clean and focused mind, and we'll talk about that later, but it's totally available for anybody. It has nothing to do with age or gender or in fact where we live or anything like that. It's available for everybody. It's really up to us to make use of it. But that said, it's a very subtle knowledge. It's a very subtle knowledge, and it actually shifts our vision from what we believe today to something new, which means we require a guru. We require a slow unfolding, somewhat like, when we read like a science, we kind of go through some basic stuff, definitions, and slowly we start getting to abstract things and abstract. This is much more abstract and much more subtle. So we do need a guru to guide us through the way. So why do we need all of this? Is fine. Okay, all of these abstract questions I just showed you, what is this world? Who am I? What is the purpose of my life? All of these abstract questions are there, but what is the point? You may ask, those of you who are youth in today, or even people, adults who are in life, you may ask, what's the point? I have a job. I have, I'm on the cusp of my college or career or, relationship, whatever. Why do I need it? Now, so one of the things that we have to understand is, we need it because the world needs it today, right? And this is something I talked about in the last lecture, is problems are everywhere today. In spite of all of the technology, we are in a lot of prosperity. We live in prosperous times. We live in relatively peaceful times mostly. Yet we are facing all of these problems in children and youth, in problems in families and society. Right. I've elaborated more in the last talk, so please refer to that. I'm not going into all these details, but the problem is, why are we facing so much stress, so many mental issues, so much emotional ups and downs? We are becoming selfish, we are over consumption and all of this stuff. Why is it happening? And the answer is Vedanta is the solution. And that's why we need to study it. If everything was fine, it was, like what we are told is Ramarajya, everybody's happy, everybody's kind, everybody is fulfilled, there are no problems, then we don't probably need it. But that has never been the case. We need it because it is the only permanent solution to all the problems we face in society. Now, another question which you may ask is, all of this is, you're talking 3,000, 5,000 years old. What's the relevance today? How is it solving problems today? And again, like I said last time, we still face the same goals of life, right? We still aim for the same goals of life, like I showed earlier, the Artha, Karma, Dharma, and Moksha. We still have the same mental enemies, the ups and downs that are caused by desire, anger, greed, delusion, pride, and envy, right? All of these are the 6 kind of mental enemies that are listed in our Shastras. And we still have them. It existed 3,000, 5,000 years before, and we still have them. We'll continue to have them. So these are part of the human existence, and to transcend that is where we need help. And finally, we still face the same kind of hurdles. And the hurdles are also categorized by our rishis into 3 categories. There are hurdles, problems that are caused by nature. COVID is a perfect example. It's caused by nature. There are problems that people around us cause, right? Like maybe, you have a horrible manager at work, or you have, you have problems within the house. We have some friendships, people say something bad about you. So these are problems that are caused by people around us. But lastly, we also have adhyatmika, or the self-caused problems. We ourselves are our biggest enemies often. We ourselves create the problems for us. We we doubt ourselves. We create our own weaknesses. We lack confidence. We don't do our job on time. We are not focused. Many things that are caused by our own weaknesses, right? So fundamentally, when you look at this from that standpoint, not much has changed. We still have the same goals and enemies and the same categories of hurdles. Of course, inside there may be some superficial changes, but fundamental problem remains the same. And what we understand is, the technology and progress have changed the externalities, but they don't change the internal thing. The internal issue is still very much the same, right? And what Vedanta tells us is, the solution is not outside, but the solution is inside. So no matter, you cannot, number one, you can never fix the external situation all at 100%, right? If it's possible to do it with money, many of us could have done it. The billionaires could have done it. Rich countries could have solved it. They were not able to do. So the problem can only be solved by turning inside. And that is the premise of Vedanta. And because of that, it is applicable eternally, for thousands of years, and even in the future eons, it will be applicable. And it's also applicable universally in every country around the world. Now, the other question we ask is, philosophy is only for old people or for monks in the Himalayas or ashrams? Clearly, youngsters want to achieve material progress, right? Like you want to have great academics, or, great jobs and, luxuries or travel and all of that. So Vedanta is, is for you. It's not just for those sadhus in the Himalayas or old people. It is for every man and woman of action. In fact, those of you who have heard about the Bhagavad Gita, you would know that Sri Krishna advises Arjuna in the battlefield and urges Arjuna to go and fight, right? So it is not for the sadhu. He did not say it for the sadhu in the Himalayas. He said it for Arjuna, who was clearly the man of the biggest action that's possible. So that is number one. And Vedanta will definitely help you immediately in everything you do. And that is why I want us to focus on, and later we'll go into that. It will help us immediately in everything that we are doing. It is not opposed to anything, and it will enable us to achieve everything, but without the negative. So we'll see that as we go. Now, the Vedanta that we are addressing is called Advaita Vedanta, right? Advaita meaning not two. And this is today, it's referred to as monism, M-O-N-I-S-M, monism. Now, this is the content of the Upanishads. It is very, very subtle, like I said, and needs often many years of study and contemplation to internalize. It's a lifelong journey, and it comes, and we'll talk about how we do that. But today, I'm just going to give you a small taste of it with some simple thought experiments, as well as some practical tips of how to use this knowledge immediately, because I don't know if anybody has the patience to study, okay, in 10 years, I'm going to get some benefit, or 20 years, I'm going to get some benefit. We may not have patience for it, but Bhagavan Krishna says right away, you will get the benefit for it. Even a little bit of this will help you fight the biggest fears, he says. So with that, let's go into, some thought experiments. Just try to play along with me, because it's kind of interesting to do it that way. So Swami Vivekananda tells a story. So the one is, there was a baby lion, and he got separated from his mother somehow, and he joined a wolf pack. Okay, so he joined this pack. All around him, he saw only wolves, right? It was the day where the lion did not have a mirror to go and see what was in front of him. So he didn't know how he looked. By the way, none of us can see our face, right? We all know this. If we did not have a mirror, we would not know how we looked at all. So similarly, this lion had no clue that he was different from the other wolves. So he just joined the wolf pack, and he would run with them, and he would eat the carcasses, and he would howl like a wolf. So this happened for a while, and then suddenly one day, another lion saw him. And he said, what are you doing? Why are you stupidly running with the wolves? You're actually a lion. That is your reality. So stop running with these wolves and howling, be a lion and roar, right? And he realized, and he moved on. So that's, a little story that tries to emphasize what the Upanishads talk about. The Upanishads are saying, don't be that whining wolf that runs with the crowds. Be the royal lion and roar, right? So what does that mean? So it doesn't mean that the lion, the wolf transformed into a lion. It was always a lion. It had just forgotten that it was a lion. It thought it was a wolf. All it needed was some guru, the old lion, to tell it that, no, you're actually the lion. So this is really the transformation we are talking about. A transformation is not physically you change into something, or you do something. It's really a recognition. It is a little difficult to understand, so I'll try to simplify as much as possible. So the vision of Vedanta, what does it say basically? Today, what do we feel? We feel that we are a very limited jiva, right? We feel we are a limited entity. What we say, all of this, right? I feel incomplete. I feel weak. I feel small. I feel in comparison to somebody, I don't feel good. That person is better than me. That person is more beautiful than me. Or sometimes we feel superior. We also do that, say, oh, I'm better than that person. I'm smarter. I'm richer, or whatever. And often our entire life is pursuing something in order to feel happy and fulfilled, right? We are constantly chasing something in order to feel happy, to feel secure, to be fulfilled. And we also feel separate from others. We feel this is me, this is somebody else. Sometimes then we have our own small identity, our family. Okay, this is my family, there's some other family. They are separate from us. And then we say, when we seek, we also say, I depend on these possessions for my happiness. So when I lose them, I feel shattered. So this is very, very, difficult, because we cannot tolerate, right? Number one, we are constantly acquiring because we want to feel fulfilled. And if we lose something, we feel shattered. So our entire lifetime goes on acquisition and maintenance. So acquisition and protection of what we own. And we want to have the situation exactly like we see, otherwise we feel shattered. Vedanta asks us to think differently. Vedanta says, no, you're already happy, you're already peaceful, you're already filled with love, you're not separate from all of creation, you don't need anything to feel happy or fulfilled. You're independent right now, here, right now. You don't need to do anything else, right? It's saying that is actually the truth. We have actually wrongly understood ourselves, or what you see on the left, right? We have wrongly understood us to be unhappy and unfulfilled and, small and weak and separate and all of this. Vedanta says this is the truth. Whereas we believe today that this is the truth on the left, right? Now you see that is a complete transformation of our vision from something that we have internalized since childhood, and later we are told even for our previous janmas and janmas and janmas, we have internalized this, that we are a limited jiva, limited entity, whereas Vedanta says we are not. Now see how it is. That's all it is. Frankly, if you ask the greatest rishis or whoever, if you distill it, this is really all it is. However, it's such a shift, because what we see on the left is what we have internalized. We behave like that, we think like that, we speak like that, day in and day out, except for the sleeping time. This is what we feel. So for us to make this transformation to what you see on the right, it seems on the one hand, it's very easy. On the other hand, it's very difficult, because we have this knowledge that we are limited has been so entrenched into us. We have to erase, so that the truth shines. So that is the purpose of the entire study of Vedanta. So there is a simple journey of a jiva. There are some questions, I'll answer that in a second. There is a simple journey that, again, to understand this concept, right? And again, these are not topics which can be taught on one slide. So please treat it only as an introduction to this topic. And I hope this will inspire you to look for more sources to study, or a guru to study with. Now, firstly, I'm sorry, I should have animated this, but primarily we think, the circle you see there, right? So we think I am the body and the mind, I am the limited jiva, like we talked about on the previous slide. Because of that, we are constantly feeling sad, unfulfilled, incomplete, inferior. So that because we associated ourselves with the limited body and the mind, we feel sad, right? And because we feel sad and incomplete and unfulfilled, we end up doing a lot of karmas. We want to do so many things to acquire the artha kama that we talked about, even the dharma we talked about. We want to do many things so that we feel fulfilled, we feel happy. Now, what happens when we do that? Number one, that doesn't make us permanently fulfilled. We all know this. Everything that we have done, look back in our journey, everything we have done in terms of acquisition, accomplishments, friendships, marriage, whatever it is, it has not led to complete, permanent, full happiness, right? Because we are still struggling with, ups and downs, sorrow, and all kinds of mental agitation. So what happens when we do that karma? We incur more and more punya and papa, right? So we incur more and more punya papa, and because of that, the law of karma, according to the law of karma that we believe in, it leads us to being reborn again and again in different bodies, and not just in a human body, in one of those 8 million species we talked about. We'll be born as any of those bodies, and the purpose of that birth is to exhaust this karma that we have done, right? So we have all the past karmas. It's a huge bag that we have. Out of that, by every birth, we want to exhaust these karmas so that we are away from the results of that karma. We understand. Now, the problem is this: every time we try to do that, we actually add to the bag. We incur more karma. So that bag never seems to diminish. It only grows. And that is why we are in this birth, a cycle of countless births. We keep getting reborn and reborn. The purpose is to actually negate those karmas, but we end up doing more and more, right? So that is the cycle where, we are a human being, keep being born. The human birth, however, is given, like I said, very, very rarely, through many punya karmas that we have done in the past, many good deeds we have done in the past. That's why we have this human birth. But in this human birth, we learn the guru tells us, no, don't think you're the body and the mind. You're actually the pure, permanent, unchanging, unaffected, eternal, all-pervading, blissful Atman. You are the nature of happiness. You're the nature of bliss. There is no need for you to feel bound or small or sad. You're actually that. All you need is to claim that. Okay, so that is the premise. I know this is very, very simplistic for students of Vedanta. I'm like, they'll feel this is very simple, but I hope this is interesting enough for you to understand. So, okay, I'll come to some of these questions later, because I think this goes into some of the comparison with other religions. But true, I am not able to read the whole comment right now, but primarily our thing is about, we go through, this is a fundamental difference between Hinduism and in the Eastern religion, Buddhism, Jainism, they also believe in it. Fundamental difference from other religions is we are not a one birth, somehow through some fluke, you're born in a certain setting, you may be rich or poor or healthy or disabled or whatever, through some fluke, and somehow you develop some belief and then you attain heaven or hell based on that. That is not our model. So we need to really understand that difference. For us, it's purely, we are given, Swami Shivananda ji calls it the world school. So we are given multiple opportunities to go through the world school. We are every birth, and this purpose of this talk is not about, but you realize that when we are born here, we have this question: why am I different? Why am I born differently from some other person, right? Why am I born a human, and why is there a ant? Why is one child born in a rich, healthy, happy family and another child is struggling? Why is one child born with health issues and another child is very healthy? You can keep talking about this, right? We are born with so many differences. And the way that Hinduism explains that is because we are born due to the result of this past karmas, and the past karmas manifest in this janma so that we can reduce those purva janma karmas, and we move towards more of a purified mind, and then we attain moksha. That is kind of the purpose here. So let's move ahead. So again, this is meant to give you a little overview and not meant to answer all the questions. Now, the key content of today will be really to hopefully give you a little exposure into what do we mean by the true self. So I told you earlier that today we think of ourselves as our small jiva, limited, poor, weak, and all of this, sad. And Vedanta tells us, no, we are the Atman, which is eternally blissful, eternal consciousness. Now, this is the subject of the Upanishads. Okay, this is very, very complex. It takes years to understand. But like I said, even a little bit understanding will help us, and hopefully will also make you or motivate you to move forward. So with that, let's look at, I think I have 4 or 5 slides on kind of an introduction to what we call the Atma, right? So you all probably heard, if you've been born a Hindu, you'd have heard it somewhere, this concept of you're the Atma, right? And this is the scope of the Upanishads. So again, giving you a little sample of what the Upanishads say, right? Now let's do a thought experiment. Remember when you were a baby, right? We were all babies, obviously, month-old baby, 5-year-old baby, 10-year-old baby. And now here we are, maybe, 10, 20, 40, 50, 80, we'll have many of us here. So you see that our body has gone through so many changes. We can't even recognize our old photos. Yet, in spite of all of that, we never forget that I, right? I, Deepa, I was 5-year-old. I am now. I will be. So we never forget, in the middle of all the changes in our body, we never forget who we are, right? So even in our life, even in that thought experiment, if you think about it, right? You just take a minute and a second and think through this. We have been through so many changes. We have never forgotten the true I that has lasted through all of those changes. I can't, in spite of all of that. The same thing with the mind. Our mind changes every second, not even, even in the middle of this talk, I'm sure all of us, except for the fact that I'm focusing, my mind will be in 20 different directions, right? And we all know this. You sit for meditation for 2 minutes, you will know. Your mind is in the past. It's thinking about something that happened. Why did that happen? Why did they say that? Who said that? Or it's worried about the future. It's like, what's going to happen? What should I do? Who's going to do what? So our mind changes every second. So, but in spite of, in the middle of all of this, that has not affected who we are, right? Like some of us and many of us have faced significant tragedies in the past. We have gone through utter miseries or great successes. In that moment, we celebrated, but really now you look back, it's just a vague memory. It doesn't even affect us anymore to that extent. So the point is, who is that who's lasted through all of those changes? Or who is that has lasted untouched by all of these changes in the body, all of these changes in the mind? Shastra says we are that Atman. We are that eternal consciousness. In fact, this thought experiment I told about is only for this birth. We are looking at what was I at 5, what was I when I was 20. But according to Vedanta, according to our Shastras, it's even beyond. It's even in our past births. It was the same Atma, is the eternal consciousness, not just in this birth, countless births. Like I told you, that countless cycle of birth. It's the same Atma that has lasted, that has actually been the consciousness behind every experience. So this Atma, Vedanta tells us, has never been born, will not die also. It is the foundation on which the births happen, the world arises, the world goes, births happen and births go. However, Vedanta says we are that consciousness that has lasted through all our births. And in the thought experiment we did, it has lasted through all our, this Janma also, right from childhood, we can see to here, all of the experiences happen, but we lasted, right? So what is the takeaway here? And again, very quick introduction. This takes years to internalize, but very quick introduction, but practical takeaway from this, right? Let's say we accept that we are that unchanging Atman that has lasted through this Janma, past Janmas. What is the takeaway? At the most, what we can do is we don't have to, we know that we are not that changing, limited, perishable body, mind, and intellect. Mind, after all, has been it perishes every single second. I have a thought, the mind arises. That thought goes away, mind goes away. Every night, mind is dead. When we sleep, the mind is dead. So we know that we are not that changing, limited, perishable mind, because if we were, we would be so shaken by all of those experiences, but we are not. Which means let's not give undue importance to them. They have a place in Vedanta, Tattva Bodha. We are told that the body is a means to enjoy the world, Bhogayatanam, right? It's a means to enjoy the experiences. It helps us enjoy the experiences and helps us live in the world. However, we don't need to give it undue importance. It's like using a phone camera, for instance, or using your headphone, for instance. We can use all of that, but we don't have to get unduly attached to it. So that is the point of Vedanta. That is the point of this, this thought experiment. The second thought experiment I thought I'll lead you through is around this witness principle. So, take a moment to observe yourself right now, right? Your eyes are seeing the screen, your ears are hearing me, you're probably breathing, unconsciously we all breathe, we do that all the time. Your mind is probably processing what you're seeing or hearing. It may be this talk, or your mind, who knows, it may also go to something else. Maybe I need to go cook, or I need to call my friend. It's going somewhere. Now, your mind is doing that, right? Take a moment to observe your mind itself, right? You will find, and it may not happen during this talk, but if you sit quietly and say, who is the one? Oh, my mind is doing 20 different thoughts a second, but there is some entity that's observing the mind. That innermost witness, which is observing even the mind, is what we call as the Atma also. And the Atma is also the Sakshi, as we call it in Sanskrit, is the inner witness. Now, this Sakshi, right, and this particular witness that we talk about has witnessed everything in our life, right? It has witnessed our great successes, our great failures. It has witnesses happiness, joy. It has witnesses hunger and feeling full. It has witnessed thousands, millions of experiences, even in this life. And it has never been affected. So momentarily, your mind would have been upset, but even the witness, our Atma, is even witnessing our momentary agitations in the mind. So we have to kind of step back to see that. I mean, I know I'm talking about it. You have to really sit down and say, I'm the one who's actually witnessing even that turbulence in my mind. Who is that? And that Sakshi is also what Vedanta calls as the witness, as the Atma, who's the eternal witness. Now, what is the takeaway there? Takeaway there is experiences are going, and life is a series of experiences only. Every experience is going to come to us, whether we like it or not, right? Good or bad, they're going to come to us. Now, what can we do? Knowing that we are that witness, we can step back and say, okay, all this is happening. I am agitated. I am upset. I am jealous. I am sad, but I'm also the witness. And the true I is the witness. So we can actually stay as a witness to the event possible, to the extent possible. I'm not saying it's easy. But at the same time, we let the body, mind, intellect handle the situation. It doesn't mean you run away to the Himalayas. It says that, okay, I'm doing all that. This has happened. I am upset. My mind is upset. I am going to do whatever I can to solve it, but I'm going to be a little removed from it. And the example Krishna gives is being like the water droplets on the lotus leaf. So we can try to do that to some extent. It comes with practice. But even I have children, I tell them same thing, it's possible to do. Try to step back, a little bit step back. And sometimes you do get caught up. You do get caught up in the situation. Happens to all of us. but at least try to take a step back and say, what has happened? It's okay. It's going to pass. I'm the witness again. I will do what I can to fix the situation, to handle it, but let me do a step back, right? It takes a little bit of training, and I think this is a practical Vedanta. It's not that moksha someday. It is actually helps us today in our life. Then one more thought experiment I have is around, sleep, right? Every night we sleep and we wake up, we feel so blissful, especially when we have the deep sleep. We feel so blissful when we wake up. Even the person facing the greatest calamity, maybe a death in the family, they may have a death in the family, but that night when they sleep, they are lost. They're blissful in that time. So this bliss is, so what our rishis and even Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya, everybody talks about it. See, that is when you know that clean bliss that we face during sleep is unconditional, right? It's not because of something. It's not because you got something. It's not because you were rich, because it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or young or old or educated or, whatever in your life situation, whether even if you have no Vedanta, don't know Vedanta, it doesn't matter. Everybody has blissful sleep. So what we are told is that sleep itself, that itself tells you that we are the nature. Our nature is bliss. That bliss is not dependent on getting something or dependent on being rich or poor or hungry or not hungry or nothing. We ourselves are blissful. That is why it shines during sleep. We experience it during sleep because we don't have this mental modifications, the mental sheath, as they call it, that covers this bliss. So Vedanta says that true happiness is realizing that we ourselves are that bliss and not because of a certain object. So what is a practical takeaway is that, yeah, sure, we will aim for Artha Kama, like we talked about, sure, I'm not expecting because of this one lecture that suddenly we'll renounce everything, but we can reduce our reliance on external objects or people or situations to give us happiness. Yes, momentarily will be there, but we can pull ourselves and say, what? This didn't happen the way I wanted to, but that does not mean that I cannot be happy. They are not connected. Your success is not connected. It takes a little bit of a transformation, a different vision to understand that this may happen, this may be a success or a failure. Irrespective of that, I can still be happy. I'll do what is required. Okay, please don't mix it. From an action standpoint, I will still do something to overcome the situation or aim for success or whatever. No problem. Please do that. But remember that my happiness is not reliant on that happening. I can claim that happiness every second. Today, right now, I can say, no matter what happened, I'm going to be happy. That really is our true nature. And we are letting this mind cloud that true nature. Now, the final thought experiment is, Vedanta says that you may have heard this concept called Brahman. Now, Vedanta says the Atman that I just told you about, the consciousness, the witness, the bliss is the same as the Brahman. This is not just our Atman. It is the same Atman in everybody, which means it is one. It is one. And that's the Advaita that we are talking about. It's a one concept called Brahman that appears as all of us, right? It is right from the lowest insect to the God. In fact, Gita also says, Pipilika to Brahmaji, right? Everybody is the same Brahman that pervades. It's only their names and forms are different. I have a different body than somebody else. I have a different body than definitely an ant or definitely from Brahmaji. However, I'm the same as everybody else. Now, Vedanta says we are, for a short time we feel different. But frankly, when we look beyond that, we have to understand that we are the same. The example given is the ocean and the waves. The ocean is full of water only. The waves are also water only. The waves momentarily may think that I'm a wave, but frankly, they're all water, right? Now, again, very, very subtle, very difficult concepts to internalize. It's easy to say it in a few words. Yeah, sure. It's easy to say. To really comprehend and to live it is very, very difficult. But one thing we can try to do from practical standpoint is knowing that everybody is the same Brahman, but in Hinduism, we say that's not one God, right? We're not monotheism, that there is one God. Swami Dayananda Saraswati says there is only God. There is no one God. There's only God. Everything that you see around is only God. So what is the need for separation? What is the need for hate? So at the least, we can say we'll consider entire humanity as nothing other than me only. I'm the same one that is appearing in other forms also. And it's a prescription for developing love for everybody, no room for hate at least. So these are all very, very high concepts, very we talked about, very high philosophical constructs. However, they have a very practical application right away in our life. So I would suggest, again, this is impossible to, this is like Upanishads and books and thousands of books of commentary. I'm trying to put it in 4 slides. It's like a foolish endeavor. However, I hope that it'll at least give you, it'll at least catalyze some interest in you to go ahead and study. Anyway, end of the day, what does this mean, right? There's immediate benefits, and I already talked about many things. You can be calm, even if there's storms raging outside. You can try to find that calmness in you, because you know that you have been beyond all of this. You can love all unconditionally. Of course, you will deal transactionally. You still have to deal with the situation, but doesn't mean you feel inferior or superior to anybody. We can do that. We can tackle problems. We can bring our mind under better control with this knowledge. We can be more accepting, no regret, guilt, jealousy, nothing will be needed. Clearly, you can sleep better at night and find that bliss every day, and stop being emotionally dependent on people. We will be physically dependent, financially dependent on other people, but at least emotionally, I don't want to be dependent on other people. Actually, it makes you, by having all of this, actually makes you love people better. You will be a better child, better parent, better student, better employee, and so on. So that is the purpose of Vedanta. I'll look at some, I think the questions are very long, so I'm having a little trouble understanding. Distinction between other religions, yes, very true. So we will talk about the distinction between religion and philosophy. So like I said earlier, unlike Western philosophy, we cannot separate Vedanta out of Hindu Dharma and say, okay, that is philosophy and this is religion. That's just a foolish endeavor, because that philosophy that we just talked about has been manifested, has been embedded into what we call the Hindu religion today. So we cannot, just the goal of even attaining this goal of Vedanta without religion is just impossible. So tomorrow is where I'll go into how do we actually, now today is all a little abstract, but we'll go into that. Yes, very true. Dichotomy of, so this whole notion of spiritual and not religious is just not possible in the Hindu fold. I don't know, I don't want to comment on Western philosophy or Abrahamic religion, but in the Hindu fold, you cannot separate out religion and philosophy. They are very much tied together. You cannot achieve the end goal of Vedanta without the religion. At the same time, just religion alone will prepare you for Vedanta, but you do have to study it. So it goes together, unlike in the West, I think. So very good point, Aditi. Hinduism is knowledgeable. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so Hinduism, it's a very much a knowledge base. Vedanta establishes that this is knowledge that matters. Yes, we have to do many actions to be ready for it. However, it's just knowledge. Like we talked about the example of the lion and the wolf. The lion the baby lion that thought it was the wolf doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to do meditation or go to college or, do a yajna or anything. It has to just understand. It just has to understand that, oops, I was thinking myself wrongly as the wolf, I'm actually the lion. That's all it requires. But it's years of conditioning in the case of the lion. So it won't be immediately become a wolf. In our case, it's janmas of conditioning which we have to overcome. But it's just knowledge that here. Narendra ji is asking, is Jivatma the one carried out from one life to the other? I wouldn't mix it. Jiva Atma, then it has two things there, right? So Jiva Atma. So the Jiva is the one that carries from one life to another. It has, and again, we don't have time for a lot of it, but it has a construct. It has this thing called Karana Sharira. So the part of our body, when we die, our body obviously goes to the ground, it's burnt. But the subtle part of our body, it continues from one birth to another. And according to the law of karma, it takes a new birth depending on. So like I said, there's a huge body or huge bag of karmas we have. It's called the Sanchita karma. Of that, a part of it manifests in one janma, and that the results in us picking a certain body. We'll pick whatever body that allows us to exhaust that little pocket that a packet we have taken from that big bag, right? So that is the point of this thing. How to watch your own thoughts. So the how part question we are going to address tomorrow, Narendra ji. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay. Um, so now, like I told you, all we need is to claim, like all the baby lion needs to do is, oh, I'm a lion from today, I'm not the wolf. That's all. But why? And similarly for us, we keep thinking we are the small body, with full of all kinds of problems. But all we have to see is claim that, no, I'm the Satchitananda Atma, I'm the one full of bliss, I'm the one eternal, I never die. Now, why is this so hard? Because, that seems like pretty straightforward. Is really that? I mean, it's not, do I not have to do like thousands of hundreds of years of meditation and lots of puja and all of that? Now, we know it's not necessary. However, our gurus are saying, like, look at this, right? Before I give you that thing. So you see this lake, right? You see the sun shining on this lake. You see that it's a very crystal clear lake, right? It's very pure. There doesn't seem to be any, disturbance in it. No waves, very clear. And you see right until the bottom, you can see the reflection. It's very clear, right? That you can see the sun. I mean, the picture doesn't show you, but you can see the sun in the water because the lake is clear, not turbulent. Now you see this lake. The sunlight is falling on this lake clearly, but you see it's full of it's muddied, and it's also turbulent. So you really can't see, you can probably see only 1 centimeter or something inside. So similarly, our gurus tell us that the sunlight is the knowledge, is the knowledge of the self. It's our Atman, it's shining. Our Atman is always shining. It's there. Obviously, without it, we don't exist. It is in Nitya, Atman is only true thing in us, in the body, mind that is covering. Now, why are we not able to see it? Because we have this mind, which is number one, which is kind of polluted, right? Too many things. And secondly, it's highly distracted. It's full of turbulence like the waves. So what our gurus are saying is, you can achieve it only because our minds are raging with all kinds of impurities, so to speak, right? Desires and anger, jealousy, pride, all kinds of momentary ups and downs. Every second we are agitated. So we are not able to, our mind is the dirty water. And secondly, our mind is constant. We can't even focus on one thing for several, even a few minutes, right? I mean, we are, and especially as technology advances, we are finding it even more harder. I mentioned in the last talk that there was a study I saw where a goldfish has more concentration, more minutes of concentration than a human. I think it's 6 seconds or something like that. And I think human being average is going down. We are in a bad situation because we have lacked the ability to focus. So these two things are why we are not able to recognize our own true self, the Atma, which is shining all the time. This Atma is shining all the time, but we don't recognize because our minds are always agitated, always wandering, and all of that distraction. Now, we all know this, even in a normal study, like even let's say you're studying for an exam, you need that, right? You need a clean mind and you need a pure mind, because if you have done anything wrong, and we have all done that, if I've done something wrong, if I've lied, or if I have not done my work, which is the most important thing that happens with me. If I've not finished my work at job, for example, it bothers me and I'm like, oh my God, I've not done it. I need to finish it. How can your mind look at your, even recognize the Atma then? Because your mind is preoccupied with something that you did not do. Similarly, your mind is distracted. I have to do this multitasking, which is a favorite thing. So because of that, even though this Atma is ever shining, it is ever shining in us. It is aham iti, the Ramana Maharshi says, it's every second it's saying aham, I. But we are not able to see it. We are identifying ourselves only with the body mind. So Vedanta, now the content of tomorrow will be purely on, now that I understand very, very crisply what the Upanishads are saying, at least to some extent, Vedanta has laid out a very nice path. Our gurus have laid out a very nice path to take us from one to another. It started in the Upanishads, in the Upanishads themselves tell us this guideline, but later, Bhagavan Veda Vyasa, later Sri Krishna, Gita is entirely on all of this, how to do. It's a manual of how to achieve that. And later, so many gurus, and even today, our gurus are giving us very sweet paths of this Jiva Yatra, as it's called, the path for life. So, what is the path, right? So we have this lake, we are that lake with full of impurities. So how do we destroy those impurities? We have to remove those impurities. So that is done using what we are going to talk about tomorrow, called Karma Yoga. Then we have to reduce and slowly destroy the turbulence of the mind. So even though, okay, we may be good people, we may not be doing anything wrong, yet we are distracted all the time. We want to do this, that, and so on. How do you still the turbulence of the mind? And once that is done, how do you then claim your truth as the Atma, right? That the self-ignorance that we have, that I'm a small, limited being, how do you destroy that self-ignorance? That is called a Jnana Yoga. So very nicely laid out path, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, right? Now, I don't want to get into, there are some semantic differences in different schools, but considering this is a class, this is a session for beginners, I want to keep it like very straightforward. There's the beautiful teaching methodology, which everybody should understand, is just like when a child starts math, we tell the child to use the fingers and add 2 + 2, 4. Later on, no, they do mental math, and later on, even complex stuff. Similarly, in the teaching tradition also, we are told something first just to get us started, and then they actually change it and say, no, that's for the beginners. Now it's a different level. So this will be there. So I'm doing my best to keep it as simple as possible. I've seen some gurus do that, so I apologize for any oversimplification. But this is the what we will talk about tomorrow. We'll talk about how do we embark on Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Again, this is the topic of countless years of study, and I'm try to very bravely or very foolishly trying to compress it in 1 hour. So I look forward to your support tomorrow. We'll continue, but let me take any question that's still pending. I know we are out of time here. How to watch your thoughts, we'll do that exactly. Do you think Brahma Muhurta is the best time to contemplate or meditate? I will also talk about that. It wouldn't let me send my, okay, thank you, Aditi. Yeah. So anyway, I think we'll continue on this how tomorrow. That's also very, very practical. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga will be very, very practical. But I think knowing the goal, knowing a little bit of Vedanta and what it means will help us prioritize Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Otherwise, we won't even do it. Now that we know that, hey, I need a clean mind, I need a focused mind, and then I need to study, then we'll give priority to Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So I hope that this was helpful. And again, please do send the questions for tomorrow. I will try to do my best.
There is one question, Deepaji.
Yes.
It is in the Q&A section. It says, isn't it arrogance for us to think that we have the question, we have the ability to question why? Do we know of any other species that question? We don't have the ability to decipher their thinking, yes, but isn't it arrogance to ask the question why? That's probably the summary of it.
They have some primitive intelligence, right? All the other species, they have been given some primitive intelligence. They all, there is that primitive intelligence helps them survive, right? Like you see, for example, the honeybees, they're building this beautiful, complicated beehive, or we see chimpanzees. So they have primitive intelligence. Are they asking philosophical questions? I don't think we have evidence of that. If they are, sure. But I think this is the evidence. And there are, some Shastras also, they say, that you say, right? Ahara nidhya didra bhayamaitram cha. There's a shloka that says, every species will eat food and mate and protect itself and all that. Only, human beings have the ability to use their buddhi and follow dharma, right? So from that standpoint, yes. Is it arrogance to ask? No, I think it is when you come to the Vedanta, we have this questioning is a very important part of Vedanta. As you all know, Krishna says, pariprashnena seveya. Even in the Upanishads it says, go and ask your guru, gurumeva gachet, like go to the guru and ask the question. And every Upanishad starts out with a student questioning the guru. There is no question. And that's why very, very important. I think even last time I said, I think we should be a questioning framework. That's how we will survive. We should ask. I don't think we are meant to. We have been given a beautiful instrument. Our intellect is a beautiful instrument. We have to use it for the right. We are using it for the wrong reasons, right? We are using it to make money or whatever. We have to use it for the right purpose of life. I don't think we should shy away from it. There is no question of blasphemy in Hindu Dharma. There is no question of heresy in Hindu Dharma. Our gurus, we should be bold enough. But what they are saying is do it with the right attitude. Don't do it with the attitude of putting down somebody or putting down the guru or exposing the guru, but really with the intent to understand. We should ask. I think our children should be encouraged to ask questions. We should be encouraged. We should ask questions. What my guru at least says is, the questions will come, but you yourself with continuous study, you will be able to get the answers. And if you don't, definitely reach out to a guru to get clarity. So every Upanishad, as you know, starts with these questions. It's encouraged, actually.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's, that we even have Upanishads like Kena Upanishad, where there are lots of questions. And even in Brihadaranyaka, the whole idea of Yagnavalka gets a series of questions. He also shows at some level that you have to ask questions in a thoughtful manner. The vicharana is something that is extremely important. So you are right on in terms of asking questions is fundamentally, that is what takes us something unique and something very appropriate. You do not have to have a blind faith. You have to be able to question, challenge, learn. And that is one of the unique characteristics of our philosophy.
See, because it is a transformation in our thinking, right? So if your conviction is not there, if you have pending questions, like if you hear something from the guru and if you're not convinced, the transformation won't happen in us, right? We won't believe it. So we have to really completely accept that knowledge in order for us to behave differently, right? So the transition can happen only if we behave. That's the concept of mananam, as we say. We'll talk about it next tomorrow. But when we hear it from the guru, we contemplate on it and we remove all the questions by getting them answered. So it is a very important part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that is what Srinivasa ji is asking. Okay, IAMS B Society. Srinivasa Rao ji, this is, again, I'm not the expert on all the animals or whatever, but this is what I've been told is that is the difference between this sloka, especially, like I said, ahara nidya bhayamaitanam cha samanam etat pashuvir naranam dharmo hi tesham or buddhir hi tesham. So that is the difference that between us. Again, in Hinduism, we don't even consider if an animal, like there have been some instances I've heard, like in Ramana Maharshi's ashram, a dog and monkey used to come. Who knows? So it is just to make a point. I was using that to make a point that let's use the human birth wisely. That's the whole point of my the thing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Subhashri ji. That is Buddhir tesham adhiko visheshaha buddhya viniha pashubir samana. If we are not using that brain, we are equivalent to an animal. It's because they also do everything else. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Also, when we say yukta ayukta vicharana, so the whole idea of defining viveka that we have, the yukta vichakshana is the one which it comes. The only way we know which is yukta and which is ayukta is by questioning. And there is also an assumption that other animals may be, what you call lower in intelligence or not, but who knows exactly whether they are higher intelligence showing up as lower intelligence just to question us and just to help us to do, like in Mahabharata when we talk about the crane coming and questioning.
Yes.
So there are different ways. It is not arrogance to think we are superior or inferior, but we need to have humility. Vidya dadati vinayam, right?
Yeah.
So that, right. So I really like what you have been saying, Deepa ji. It is wonderful. In United States, I also work with a large number of youth. We do something on self-awareness through Sanskritam and Gandhi camp, variety of things. So I really appreciate the way in which you simplified and you brought a very nice structure and a process and building up concepts from one to another. I enjoyed listening to you and thank you very much for today. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Hari Om.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you. And tomorrow morning, as the Sunday morning in United States and Saturday evening in United States, we're going to have the continuation of Dr. Arvind Rao's Madhaviya Shankara Digvijayam. This is actually happening for the third week I hope you tune in, and we are looking forward to seeing you. It is just as a reminder, India time 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. On Sunday morning in India. Saturday evening, whatever time it is, in the West Coast, it will be 7:30 to 9:30. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate your participation. That's what makes the Festival of Oneness successful. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful evening. Namaste.